By the end of this tutorial, you will create this stunning React app with filtering, sorting, and beautiful themes. So watch this till the end. Now let me give you a quick demo about this React app. At the home page, we get the list of movies. And the fun fact is, this data is real. It is coming from another website using API. After that, we add feature of filter the movies by star. Then we add sorting feature by rating or date. So you will learn a lot from this, and also at the end you will get something exciting and surprise. So make sure you watch till the end. This is our second React project. First project is modern to-do application like Notion. If you are absolute beginner, then you can watch this tutorial. I added the link in I button and also in the description box. Now let's start building this movie listing application. Let's start with creating the new project. So open up your React project folder and open command prompt or terminal in that folder. Now can you tell me which command we will use to create new application? Right, npm create vite @latest and hit enter. Now here we write our project name Movie Maniac and press enter. Now select the framework, which is React, and after that select variant, which is JavaScript, and hit enter. Now we only need to run these three commands. So first of all, go into this folder with cd and press tab, select Movie Maniac folder. Now let's install all dependencies. So npm install and hit enter. It will take some time, so till then let's plan our application. So first of all, we can divide our application layout into two sections. First one is Navbar and second one is this MovieList. Now let's define components we can create for this application. One thing I want to clear that this planning process is not the absolute plan. It is just a quick starting point. We can add or remove components depending on our needs. So first, we can separate this Navbar component. After that, we can create component for this MovieCard. After that, in this display section, we have three more sections, which are this popular, top rated, and upcoming section. But you can see basic structure of all these sections are same. All have headings, filters, sorting, and list of movie cards. So we can also create reusable component for that. And I think that's all we need. Now let's check our dependencies installed or not. And yes, it is installed. So let's open this project in VS Code by code space dot and hit enter. Good. Now we can close this terminal, we don't need it. And also, we close our folder. Now let's make sure our project is working or not. So open up terminal by Ctrl plus backtick or Command plus backtick and write npm run dev and hit enter. One more thing, if you want to stop this application, press Ctrl plus C or Command plus C for that. Now hold Ctrl or Command and click on this localhost URL. And it's working. Now let's create basic layout for our application. So open app.jsx file and we remove all code from here and create functional component with arrayFCE. Now first of all, we give this div class name equals to app, and inside this div we want to create first navbar. So we write here nav tag and give it a class name navbar, and here we write navbar content. After that, we create our main section of our application, and inside this we simply write main content. Save these and let's see what we get. See, here we get both sections. Now let's add style for each of them. But before that, we need to remove some basic styles. So in index.css file, we remove all styles and at the top, we write star, curly brackets and write M0. See, it will write margin 0. After that, P0 and we get padding 0 and box sizing to border box. These are the tricks which I learned working in multiple projects, but I wish I have these tricks at the beginning and that's why I am giving you these tricks early. Now after that, we add styles for body and let's change our background color to has 101010 and color to FFF, which is white. Save this file. Now let's add CSS for our layout. So in our app.css file, we remove all styles and we add .app and inside this curly brackets, we write display to grid template rows to 80 pixel and auto. So first section height is 80% and second section height is on auto. You already know that, right? And that's all we need for layout. Save this file and take a look. We don't get our grid styles. Can you tell me what is the reason? Right, we didn't import app.css file in our app component. And that's what many developers forgot to do. So we write import /app.css, save the changes and take a look. See, we get our styles. Now in the next lesson, we will create our Navbar section. Now let's add font for this application. So as I told you, we have two ways to add font in our React application. In first project, we seen how to add font using CDN link. Now let's see how to add offline font. So again, we are going to use Montserrat font because that is my favorite font. So in our browser, open a new tab and we search Montserrat Google Fonts and open this first link. Now here at the top, we have download family option. So click on that and see, download started. Let's open this in download folder and simply unzip it from here. Now let's open Montserrat folder and here we have this type of folder structure. In this static folder, we have all weights of font individually. Now back to this folder and here we have this two complete font file which contains all font weight. Here we don't want italic, we want regular font. But the size of this font is pretty large. We can see it is 218 KB, which is the large size for font files. So we can convert this font file into small size of font file. So in the browser, in new tab, we search TTF, which is our current file format, to WOFF2, which is the most popular font file for web browsers. Open this Cloud Convert website and here we have to select our font. So select Montserrat font, open that and click on Convert. It will take little time and click on Download. Now in our download folder, we can see file size is reduced to 82.8 KB, which is almost 60 to 70% reduced. Here, we rename this file to montserrat.woff2. Now let's check this font format is working for all browsers or not. So head over to caniuse.com and at the top, we search WOFF2 and see it's working in almost all browsers. More specific, 97% browser support this font. So back to VS Code and in our assets folder, we create a new folder called fonts and in that folder, we simply drag and drop this font. Now let's see how we can apply this font in our application. So open up index.css file. Here at the top we define our font. So just write @fontface and select this auto suggestion. Now here we have two properties. First one is font family, and here we pass our font name which we want to use. So we can write here imported font or anything. For simplicity, I just write Montserrat. Now in the URL, we have to pass path of our font file. So in double quotes, we write period slash. We have assets. In that we have fonts, and here we have our font. Now in our body, we add font family to Montserrat, sans serif. Remember, whatever name we pass in this font family, the same name we have to pass here. Otherwise, it will not work. Save the changes and take a look. See, we have Montserrat font. So this is how we add offline fonts in our application. But in my humble opinion, if possible, try to use CDN link for adding fonts. I just show you this because some clients want to add their own font for their project, and this is how you can add these fonts. So let's create our Navbar section. Now this type of Navbar is very common in many applications, and also we don't want to make our app component complicated. So we can define our Navbar in the separate component. So in our source folder, we create a new folder called components, and inside this we create one more folder called Navbar. And inside this Navbar folder, we create navbar.jsx file, and also we create navbar.css file. Now let's create boilerplate in our Navbar component, and at the top we import period slash navbar.css file and save this file. Now back to app component, we cut this nav tag, and at the place of that we add our navbar component, and see, auto import works. Save this file. Now back to our component. At the place of this div, we paste our nav tag. Now let's add all elements for our navbar. So first of all, we add one h1 tag, and we write here our application name, which is Movie Maniac. Now for adding 3 links, we create one div and give it a class name navbar_links. Let me show you shortcut to create this. So just write dot, and here we add our class name navbar_links and hit tab. See, we get div with that class name. This is called emmet, which helps us to write code fast. Now inside this navbar links, we create one anchor tag and we write popular here. Now after that, we want to add emoji for that. So in our resources folder, which you downloaded previously, and in that we have project 2 folder, and inside it we have assets folder. Now drag all these images into our assets folder. Good. Now in our Navbar component, at the top, we import fire from. Here we go 2 folders up, assets, and fire.png. Now let's import 2 more emojis for top rated and upcoming links. So duplicate this link 2 more times, and first we change this fire to star and image to glowing star.png. And for last, import party from partyface.png. Now for adding these emojis, we add image tag and we pass here fire, and in alt fire emoji, and also class name to navbar_emoji. Now let's duplicate this anchor tag 2 more times and we change the link name to top rated and image to star and alt to star emoji and last link to upcoming and image to party and alt to party face emoji. Save the changes and we get here error. We can see it say path is not available. So here in our parting phase we have to correct this spelling. Save the changes and take a look. See, we get our elements. Now let's add styles for them. So first of all, we separate this application name and these links. So in navbar.css file, we write .navbar and in curly brackets, we add display to flags, align items to center, justify content to space between, padding to 0 for top bottom and 30 pixel for left and right, and border bottom to 1 pixel, solid has E6, E6, E6. Save these and see they are separated. Also, if you don't want to write all the CSS part, then you can copy them from the GitHub repository. Link is down in the description. Now after this navbar, we add navbar, angle bracket, h1 and in the curly brackets, font size to 30 pixel and color to has FFE 400. Now after that, we add styles for our anchor tags. So .navbar underscore links, angle and we target A and inside these curly brackets, we add display to flags, align items to center, font size to 20 pixel, font weight to 500, color to white, text decoration to none, and padding to 0 and 15 pixel. Save these. Nice, this looks good. Now let's make this emoji small. So we add here .navbar underscore emoji and into curly brackets we add width to 25 pixel, height to 25 pixel and margin left to 7 pixel. Save the changes and take a look. It looks nice, but we don't get our links in row. So let's inspect these and see, here we forget to add display flags for navbar links div. So in our CSS file, here we add .navbar underscore links and in curly brackets, we write display to flags and align items to center. Save the changes and take a look. See, now our navbar looks perfect. I know I'm going little faster for HTML and CSS part because you already know that. Now let's build our MovieList component. So we create new folder in components folder called MovieList. And inside this folder, we create a new file called movielist.css and also movielist.jsx. Now let's add our boilerplate code by RAFCE and at the top we import /movielist.css file. So we don't worry about that. Now at the place of this div, we add section and we add class name movie_list. Now in this section we have two parts. One is for our header line which contain heading of the list, filter and sorting. And second part is MovieCard list. So we add one header tag and give it a class name MovieListHeader. Now inside this, first we add h2 tag and add class name MovieListHeading. Now inside this, we add our title, which is popular, and after that, we want to add emoji. So we add image tag, and in source, we pass fire, alt to fire emoji, and pass class name to Navbar underscore emoji, which we added in our Navbar component. Now we have to import this fire emoji at the top. So import fire from, here we go 2 folders up, assets, and here we get fire.png. Now let's add div for our filter and sorting, and give it a class name MovieList fs. fs for filter and sorting. Now first, I want to add one unordered list, and inside this, we will add filtering item. So we write ul.movie_filter angle bracket li dot movie_filter_item multiply by 3 and press tab. See, here we get this code. This is the power of Emmet. Now we pass here 8 plus star, 7 plus star, and 6 plus star. Now after this list, we have to add 2 drop down boxes. So we add select.movie_sorting, and inside this, we want 3 options. Now for first option, we pass sort by, which is default, dating, and rating. Now we can simply duplicate this select tag, and here we only want 2 options. So we can remove this one option, and here we write ascending, and at last we have descending. Save the changes, and we get nothing because we forgot to add MovieList component in our app component. So in app component, at the place of this main content, we add MovieList component. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get our elements. Now let's add styles for them. So in MovieList.css file, we add .movie_list, and in the curly brackets, we add padding to 10 pixel for top bottom and 30 pixel for left right. After that, we set display to flex, align items to center, justify content to space between, because we want to separate heading with filter and sorting. After that, we add margin bottom to 5 pixel. Now we add styles for our heading. So .movieList heading, and in the curly brackets, we add display to flex, align items to center, and font size to 26 pixel. Color to has FFE 400. Save the changes, and we don't get our styles here. So let's check this. In our MovieList component, here we can see we have to add style for MovieList header. So in our CSS file, we change this MovieList class to MovieList header class. Save the changes, and see, we separate these 2 parts. Now here, I know font size a little small. You can increase them by your needs. Now let's add styles for this filter and drop down. So back to VS Code, and we add here MovieList fs, and in the curly brackets, we add display to flex, align items to center. Now here is the one thing. We are repeating these 2 lines many times in our application. See, here, here, and also we used in Navbar CSS file. So let's create separate class for these 2 lines. So cut these 2 lines and open index.css file, and at the end we add new class align_center, and inside it we will paste our styles. Now whenever we want to add these 2 styles, we can simply add this align center class to that element. And that's how Tailwind CSS made. Save this file, and in MovieList.css file, we have to add align center class for these two elements. So we remove these two lines from here and also remove this class style. Save these, and in the MovieList component, first we add align center before header and also add align center before this heading. Also for this div and also before this movie_filter. Save the changes, and this is working fine. Now back to MovieList.css file, we add .movie_filter, list style to none, font size to 16 pixel. Now we add .movie_filter item, and in the curly brackets, we add padding to 5 pixel and 10 pixel, and cursor to pointer. Now after that, we add style for our drop down. So .movie shorting, and inside these curly brackets, we add border to none, outline to also none, border radius to 5 pixel, font size to 16 pixel, font weight to 500, font family to inherit, so it can use Montserrat font inside our drop down. After that, height to 30 pixel, padding to 0 and 5 pixel, and margin to 0 and 10 pixel. Save the changes and take a look. See, we get our styles. Now at last, I just want to display this selected filter, so user can see what filter they have selected. So in MovieList component, in this list item, we add one more class called active, and we will switch this active class for active filter. Save this file, and in the CSS file, after this movie filter item, we add movie filter item dot active curly brackets, and inside this, border bottom to 1 pixel, solid, has E6, 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 and font weight to 500. Save the changes and take a look. See, this looks beautiful. Now after this header tag, we create one more div with class name movie_cards. In this div, we will add all our movie cards. So in the next lesson, we will create this movie card component. Now let's build our last component, which is movie card component. So in the MovieList folder, we create a new file called MovieCard.css, and we create another file called MovieCard.jsx. The reason we create this component in MovieList folder because MovieCard is a part of MovieList component. You can also create separate folder for that. It's totally up to you. Now let's add boilerplate code, and at the top we simply import /moviecard.css file. Nice. Now in this component we return anchor tag because when someone click on movie card, then we will open that link, and we give it class name to movie_card. Now in this anchor tag, we want to add our movie poster. So add image tag and add class name to movie_poster. Now let's find some dummy poster for temporary. So in our browser, open a new tab and search movie poster image and select any of them image and right click on the image and copy image address. Now back to VS Code and paste this link in the source and in alt we add movie poster. Save the changes and we again get nothing because we again forgot to add this movie card component in our movie list component. So in movie list component, we add here movie card component. Save the changes and see, we get our post. Now in our application, when we hover over mouse on movie card, we want to display some details about movie like name, release date, rating and little description. So after this poster, we will add one div with class name movie underscore details. After that, we add s3 tag for movie name and add class name to movie underscore details underscore heading. And inside this, we write movie name. Now after that, we add one div with class name movie underscore date underscore rate. And inside this, first we add one paragraph in which we show movie release date, and after that another paragraph for displaying rating. Now at the right side of this rating, we want to display the star icon. So we add image tag source to star alt to rating icon and give it a class name to card underscore emoji. Now we have to import this star icon. So at the top, we import star from, here we go 2 folders up, assets / star.png. Good. Now at the end, we want to display little description. So after this div, we add another paragraph tag and give it a class name to movie underscore description. And inside this, we add dummy text by lorem 15 and press tab. Save the changes and take a look. See, we get our ugly elements. So in the next lesson, we will make them beautiful. So let's quickly add styles for movie card component. First of all, I close all other files. Now in the MovieCard.css file, we add .movieCard and in curly brackets, we add width to 200 pixel, height to 300 pixel, margin to 15 pixel, overflow to hidden, border radius to 10 pixel, color to white, and box shadow to 0 pixel, 3 pixel, 8 pixel for blur, RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.25. Now after that, we add .movie poster and inside it width to 100% and height to 100%. Save the changes and see, we don't get our styles. Let's find out the issue. So right click on our card and go to inspect. Select this anchor tag and see, here our width and height are not applied. And it is suggesting us to try setting display to something other than inline, because if our element is set to inline, then that will prevent width property. But there is another way to solve this. We can make our movie cards div to flex. So in MovieList.css file, we add .movieCards and inside this, we write display to flex, flex wrap to wrap, and justify content to space evenly. Save the changes and see, we get our card here. Now we have to show our movie details section. So here we need to use position absolute. So first of all, in MovieCard CSS file, we make our movie card element, which is our parent element of this movie details, and set its position to relative. And after that, at the bottom, we add movie details and inside this we add position to absolute, top to 0, width to 100%, height to 100%, and padding 10 pixel. Save these, and here we get this movie details. Now let's style this text. So back to our CSS file, and we add here .movie details heading, and inside this font size to 16 pixel and color to has FFE 400. After that we add .movie date rate, and inside these curly brackets display to flex, align items to center. Oh sorry, we already created class for this, so we remove these two styles and we add justify content to space between, font size to 12 pixel, font weight to 500, margin to 5 pixel for top bottom and 0 for left right, and color to has FFE 400. Now let's in MovieCard component first add align center class before this class, else we will forget it. Save this file and back to our CSS file. Now after that we add .card emoji, and inside this we set width to 20 pixel, height to 20 pixel, and margin left to 5 pixel. And at last we add .movie underscore description, and in it font size to 12 pixel and font style to italic. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get our styles, but we need to make some changes. First, we want to add little background for this details div, so our text looks clear, and also we want to place it at the bottom. So back to VS Code, and here in the movie details class we add background image to linear gradient, and inside it we pass two colors for gradient. So RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, RGBA 0, 0, 0, 1. These both are black color, but first one with 0 opacity and second one with 1 opacity. After that we add display to flex direction to column, and justify content to end. Save the changes and take a look. See, now our details looks very clear, and that's the power of gradient. Now here I don't get any effect for this date and rate line. So let's see what we did wrong. Back to our MovieCard component. Here you can see we have class name movie underscore date underscore rate. So probably I make mistake in this spelling. Let's inspect our card and select the div, and see, here we are not getting styles for that. So back to our CSS file, and I correct our class name. Save the changes and take a look. See, we get our details properly. Now we want to show these details only when we hover this card, and we want to also make it big when we hover. So at the top we add .MovieCard hover effect, and inside this we simply add transform to scale 1.08. Now in the movie detail styles we add one more property, opacity to 0 by default, and when we hover over our movie card, then we will set its opacity to 1. So .MovieCard hover .movie details, and inside this opacity to 1. Simple as that. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get what we want. Now this effect is very sudden. We want to make this smooth. So in our MovieCard styles, we add transition to all 0.2 second, ease in out. And also same we apply to movie details. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get smooth effect. So here we have all components ready with styles. Now we just need to add functionality to our project. If you are continuously watching this course, then take 10 to 15 minutes break and get some fresh air. Take care of your eyes and I will see you in the next lesson. Now before we start calling an API, let's understand what is API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it is a way for two programs communicate with each other. Let's understand this with the example. So here is a restaurant. We are sitting on the table 1 and we want to order some food. In this case, what we will do? We do not directly go to the kitchen and order our food to chef. Instead of that, we will call a waiter. Waiter will take our order and then give it to the kitchen. After that, kitchen start making process of our order and give food to the waiter. And then waiter will deliver the food to our table. So here, waiter is like messenger who takes our request and pass that request to our destination. And then it will get reply message from the destination and bring it back to us. So imagine this table 1 on which we are sitting is our application frontend. Now we want to get some data about clothes. So we will call API, which is our waiter, and send request to it. Now API will transfer that request to server or database, which is our kitchen, and that server or database will share the response, which is the data we want. And API deliver the response data to our frontend. So now you understand what is API. API is a way for two programs communicate with each other. Let me explain you with another real world example. So you probably visit the website which books the flight tickets, right? So in that application, let's say Emirates, we write our departure city, let's say London, and place to reach, let's say Mumbai. And we enter our dates, type of seat, and we search the flights, and it will display details for flights. That's possible because of API. We call an API, and that API will get this data from server and give us that data. Simple as that. Now here is one thing. As we are using this Emirates site, we are only getting the flight details of Emirates flights. But there are some websites on which you search flight details and they will return multiple flights with multiple airline companies. How is that possible? So many companies launch their API to public usage, and we call that API as public API. And by using this public API, we can access their data. Now, as their data is open publicly, company has to use some protection. And for protection, many public API has its API key. So when our frontend send request to API, frontend needs to send API key with that request. After that, API will pass that request to server, and before taking the request, server asks for API key to access the data. So our API pass our API key to the server verify that key. If it is authentic, only then server will return data. Otherwise, server returns error, access denied. Simple as that. Now you might ask, how can we get API key if we want to access public API? So for getting the API key, we have to register on their website which company is providing the API, and they will send us API key. So in the next lesson, we will get our API key for movies data. Now for generating the API key, we have to go to TMDB website, which is the moviedb.org. If this website is working, then great. But some students ask question that TMDB website is not opening. It is loading and loading. So to solve this issue, we can use VPN. A VPN can change your virtual location by routing your internet traffic through servers in different regions. So it looks like you are browsing from that location. Don't worry, it is really simple. Open your browser. I recommend to use Chrome or Firefox. Open this web store and search here VPNly for Chrome or Firefox and simply add it in your browser and click on Add Extension. Now to use this VPN, go to this extension options and find VPNly. Currently it is gray, which means VPN is not active. So click on it, agree the terms and connect to VPN. Done. Close these tabs, we don't need it. Now refresh our TMDB website. See, now it is working. So if you get any error in the TMDB website, try to use this VPN and make sure when you restart your browser, then you have to again connect to VPN. And also, while fetching the data in our application, this VPN should be enabled. By default, VPN will be disabled. Now in the next lesson, we will see how to generate API key. So in our Movie Maniac project, we are going to use public API of TMDB for getting the data of movies. We are not creating the API here, we are just using the public API. The reason I want to teach you public API is nowadays it is very common feature of application. For example, some application show the weather information and what they are using just public API of another company. So by using public API, you can make your application more useful, and also if you are applying for React developer job, then by looking at your project, interviewer also know that you can also use public APIs. So let's see how we can get TMDB API key. So head over to TMDB website and go to more option and open API option. Here we can see this API link option to register for API key. Open that and here you can see a TMDB user account is required to request an API key. So let's get our API key. So click on Join TMDB link and fill this form with your details. Username CB24, enter your password. Again write confirm password and enter your real email account and click on sign up. Now we have to verify our email account. So open up your email and open TMDB email and click on activate my account. Now we can close this. Now we can log in into our account. So write your password here and click on login. See, we redirect to our dashboard. Now here we can see we have to request for the API key. So click here and select developer and accept this agreement. You can read that if you want. Now we have to fill this last form for API key. I know this is little long process, but they are giving us useful data. And this process is very common for getting API key of any company like Google or Facebook. First of all, select type of use, personal, application name to Movie Maniac, application URL to localhost 5173, application summary to Movie Maniac is application which show popular, top rated and upcoming movie details. Now after that, write your first name, last name, phone number, address 1, address 2, city, state, postcode, and at the end click on submit. And we have to write long address. Now click on submit and see, here we successfully get our API key. Now let's see how can we get API. So open this documentation link and here we have to go API reference section. And in this documentation, they explain each and every endpoints of their API. But we only want to get movie API. So scroll down this section and go to movie details section. Now here we get this popular, top rated and upcoming API. So let's open popular. Now at the right side, we can see the details about that API. Note that here our HTTP method is GET. We will discuss these HTTP methods in upcoming sections, in which we will see how can we call our private API. For now, just remember, GET method is used to getting the data from API. Simple as that. Now don't worry, now just copy this API from here and in our new tab, we open that API. See, here it returns error called invalid API key and you must be granted a valid key. Basically, it is asking for API key. So back to our My API settings tab. Here you can see we have this API sample. So we just copy this question mark and API key variable. Now in our tab URL, we paste that API key as query string. And see, here we are getting this popular movies data. If you are wonder how you can see your data in this beautiful format, then you have to install one Chrome extension called JSON Viewer Pro. So congratulations, you create your first API key. Now let's see how can we call this API in our application using fetch method. Trust me, it is really simple and easy. Now before we call API, we need to decide in which component we need to call API. So we need movies data in our MovieList component and using that data, we will display it in MovieCards. Now here, we want to call API when this component gets rendered. Do you remember which hook we will use for running logic on component render? Right, we will use useEffect hook. Now as I told you, useEffect is used for 3 different variations. Here we need second variety, which is passing empty array at dependency array, because we want to only call API one time when this MovieList component gets rendered. So we will write here useEffect and press tab. See, it is automatically imported at the top. Now in useEffect, we know we have to pass 2 arguments. First one is for callback function, which is the function we want to run, and second is dependency array. Here we pass empty array. Simple. Now in this callback function, we will write our logic to call API. So for calling API, we are using fetch method. If you already worked in JavaScript, then you already know this concept. And if you don't know fetch method, don't worry, just see this and you will understand it. So here, we add fetch method. Now in this function, at the first position, we have to write our API URL. Back to browser, and here we copy our API URL. And in our fetch method, in double quotes, we will paste it. Now this expression returns a promise. Basically, promise means we will get the result in the future, not immediately. Result can be our data, or if something went wrong, we will get error, but we definitely get anything. Let me show you what I means. So we will store this in variable called response. And after that, simply console.log this response. Save the changes and take a look. Open up console and see, here we get promise. If we expand this promise, here we get promise state to fulfilled because this API is working. And in this promise result, we get the response from API. And in this response body, we will get our data and other details about API call. So for handling the JavaScript promises, we have two methods, then method and async await. Don't worry, we will see both one by one. So first of all, let's remove this response variable and also this console.log. And after this fetch method, we add .then. Now in this then method, we have to pass callback function, and here we get our response as parameter, arrow function, and now let's simply console.log this response. Save these and take a look. See, here we get bunch of properties related to our API call, like status, URL, body. This body has all our data. Now you might think, why can't we see that? It's because we have to convert that data into JSON format. So at the place of this response, we write response.json. Save these and see, we again get promise here. And in this promise result, we get our movies data. So for accessing this data, we have to return response.json from this function. And because of that, we get another promise. Now we again use then method for handling that promise. And inside this, we write callback function, and we get here data as parameter, and we simply console.log this data. Save this and take a look. See, we get movies data in these results. So it's working. Now this fetch method with two then methods looks little bit ugly. So let's see the second method of handling promise. So let's remove these two then methods. We don't need them. Now before this fetch method, we add await, which means our code will wait for this promise to complete execution. If you don't know these concepts, then I highly recommend to watch fetch method and asynchronous JavaScript tutorials. These are really very important concepts. Now to use await, we have to make our function async. So here, after our use effect, we will create a new function called fetch movies. Now to make this function asynchronous, we have to pass async keyword before this parenthesis. Now let's move our fetch method into this function. Good. Now we know that this expression returns response. So let's store that in variable called response. And after that, we simply console.log that response. Now don't forget to call our fetch movies function in our use effect. Save the changes and take a look. Refresh the page and see, we get the same response which we get in our first then method. So we have to convert that response into JSON format. So we write here response.json, and this will return again promise. So we will again write here await, and let's store that JSON data in variable called data. And at the end, let's console.log this data. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get our data. And by using async await, our code looks clean. So whenever we want to display data from API call, we will follow this method. If you have little confusion, then don't worry, with practice, your confusion will go away. And I added one whole section specially for calling API. So don't worry about that. Now it's time for little exercise. So in the previous lesson, we get our movies data. Now you have to display the data in multiple cards. Here are some properties you have to use. Hint is, you have to use useState hook for some reason. So spend some time and try to solve this exercise. And after that, come and watch the solution. So let's see the solution of this exercise. I hope you try to solve that. So first of all, at the top, we will create one state variable for storing this movie's data. So write useState and press tab. It will import useState at the top. And now write useState snippets, movies and set movies. And as the default value, we pass empty array. Now at the place of this console.log, we simply use set movies and store here data.results because we are getting movies array in data.result. Now let's display these movies in our MovieCard component. So here we add curly brackets, movies.map, and inside this we get single movie item, arrow function, and we return MovieCard component. Now do you remember whenever we use map method, we have to pass unique value as key. So we add key and pass here movie.id, which is unique for every movie. Now here we have to pass each movie details which we want to display in our MovieCard component. So at the place of passing each details individually, we can pass whole object in one variable. Let me show you what I means. So we simply pass here movie equals to, and we pass here each movie item. Save this file and open MovieCard component, and here we can destructure our movie props. Now first of all, let's display all text. So at the place of this movie name, we write movie.original_title. At the place of this date, movie.release_date. Rating to movie.rate_average. And movie description to movie.overview. Save these and see, here we get our details, but this movie description is very long. So let's first solve this. If you solve this exercise to this point, trust me, you are doing really great. So there are many ways to do that. We simply add here .slice method and pass 0 and 100, and after that plus in double quotes ... So basically this slice function will only display the first 100 letters, and after that we display 3 dots. Save these and see, we get this nice description. Now let's change our poster. So go to the setting tab and open documentation of TMDB API, and here in the images section we open this basics tab. Here they mention how we can add images path. So simply copy this image URL and at the place of our hard-coded image, we add curly brackets, backticks, and simply paste here that URL. Now in this URL, we only need to change this image ID. So we remove this image ID and also remove one slash and simply add $curly brackets movie.poster_path. The reason we remove that slash because slash is already available in poster_path variable. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get our movie posters. Now we want to open official page of that movie on TMDB website when we click on MovieCard. So here in our anchor tag, in href, we add again curly brackets, backticks, and here we pass https www.themoviedb.org/movie/curly brackets movie.id, and we want to open this link in new tab. So we add here target equals to underscore blank. Save the changes and take a look. Click on any of the card and see, it will open in new tab. Perfect. So here we completed our basic part of this application. I hope it is fun and learning experience for you. If you have questions, you can ask in Q&A section. Now in the next section, we will start implementing filter and sorting features. Welcome to the section 7 of the Ultimate React course. In this section, we are going to see how we can implement the filtering, sorting, and one bonus functionality which will make our application stand out from other crowd, which is dark and light mode feature. I am very excited about this and hope you are too. So let's start this. Now before we start implementing filter and sort functionality, let me clarify the basic difference between the filter and sort features. So we use filter functionality to filter out some data. For example, in our application, if we click on 8+ star rating, then only those records should display whose rating is higher than 8 star. So we are filtering other movie data. Now at the other hand, sorting is for arranging data. For example, in our application, if we select sort by date, then we have to rearrange our movies data. So that functionality is always arranging data in the order. It will not remove any data. And that's we call sorting. So in simple words, filtering is we are keeping only useful data, and sorting is we are keeping data in some order. The reason why I explain you this is this explanation will help you to clearly understand and implement the logic. So before we start writing logic for filter, first we need to get the current selected filter. So after this movie state, we create one more use state and give it a name, min rating, and set min rating, and as the default value, we pass 0. Now what we want to do is, when we click on this list item, then we will set our min rating to that rate. It is really simple, let me show you. So click here, and if you have Windows, then hold Alt, or if you have Mac, then hold Option, and now click here and here. By using this, we can create multiple cursor, and we add here on click event, arrow function, handle filter function. Now press escape for removing multi cursor, and simply pass here rating 8, 7, and 6. Now let's define this function. We can minimize other function like this. This technique I always use when I writing more lines of code. Now after this function, const handle filter, and here we get rate, arrow function, and inside this, first we set min rating to this rate. Now do you remember what method we will use for filtering data? Right, it is filter method. You already know that. Nice. So we simply write movies.filter, and inside this we get each movie, arrow function, and here we have to pass condition. movie.vote_average greater or equals to rate. Simple as that. Now this filter method will return a new array. So we store that in variable called filter. And now we can set movies and pass here filtered movie. Save the changes and take a look. Now before we check our functionality, I notice in this movie details we don't get rating. So let's fix this. Open MovieCard component and scroll down to movie details. And here we have to change this rate average to vote average. Save the changes and see, here we get our rating. Now click on filter, let's say 7 and see, it's working. Now click on 8 and it is also working. But here is a one major bug. Again click on 7 or 6, it will not work. Let me explain you what is happening here. So when we select rating 7+, this handle filter function will run. Inside this, our min rate state will update with 7. After that, this filter method will filter movies and we set that movies in this set movie function. Now if we click on rating 6+, then this filter method will filter only previously filtered data, which all are 7+ rating instead of using our original 20 movies. And that's the issue. So let's solve this. Solution is, we will originally set all movies in this movies state variable from API. And after that, we will not touch that array. We will create one more state variable and store our movies in that variable. And when we want to filter our data, we will get data from our original movie state and then store our filter data in our new state variable. I know this is little confusing, but just see this and you will understand it. So here we create one more state variable and give it a name filter movies and set filter movies, and as a default value we will pass empty array. Now first of all, we have to fill this filter movies array when we call our API. So we duplicate this set movies line and we pass here set filter movies. So these filter movies and movies are both equal. Now in the handle filter function, at the place of this set movies, we add set filter movies. So we are not messing with the original movies array. Instead, we are just using it for storing original data. Now at the bottom, we have to use filter movies at the place of movies array. Save the changes and take a look. Select 7, then 8, then 6 and see, now it's working properly. Now if we selected filter 6, then if we again click on that filter, we want to display all our movies. Let's implement this. So here in the handle filter function, we add if condition rate equals to min rating, and inside this, first we will set min rating to default, which is 0, and after that set filter movies to our original movies, and else we will run our this logic. Simple as that. Save the changes and take a look. Click on rating 8 and again click on rating 8. See, we get our data back. So it's working now. Now here is a one last change. We want to display the current selected filter. So back to VS Code, and at the place of this string class, we add curly brackets, and here we add condition if min rating equals to 8. If it is true, then we will return two classes, movie filter item and active. Else we return only movie filter item. Let's copy this expression and paste it for these both filters. And just change here 7 and 6. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get this active filter line. You can see how simple it is to implementing filter feature. Now here in our movies filter, this is repeatable process. So we can separate our filter movie component, and that we will do in the next lesson. So instead of just putting this list item in separate component, we will put this whole on-order list in the new component. So let's cut this, and in our movie list folder, we create new component called filtergroup.jsx. Now here we add our boilerplate and simply return our on-order list. Now in this component, we need these two properties, min rating and handle filter function. So how can we get that? Right, by using props. You can see React is very simple. So save this file and back to our movie list component, and here we add filter group component. Now inside this we pass min rating equals to min rating, and for handle filter we pass props on rating click equals to handle filter. You can see here we are using these related names because that is the best practice for developer, and we can better work with other developers also. Save these, and now in the filter group component, add the props, we destructure it and get here min rating and on rating click. Now let's replace this handle filter function. Press Ctrl+D or Command+D to select the exact same code, and just write here on rating click. Save the changes and take a look. See, it is still working. Now one more thing I want to change in this filter group component. So today we want to only show 3 filters. Tomorrow if we decide we want to add 5+, 4+, or 9+ stars, then we have to multiple times duplicate this list item, and that is the bad practice. So we can use array for that. So open MovieList component, and we add here one more props called ratings equals to, in curly brackets, we add array, and inside this we add 8, 7, and 6. So if we want to add or remove one filter value, then we can simply do that by using this rating array. Save this file and back to filter group component. At the top, we get ratings. Now after our unordered list, we add curly brackets, ratings.map. We get here single rate, arrow function, and we return this list item tag. Now at the place of this hard-coded 8, we add rate, here also rate, and here also curly brackets rate. Now here we are missing one thing in map method. Can you tell me? Right, it is key property. So we pass key equals to also rate. Here our all rates are unique, and that's why we can pass it as key. Otherwise we will add index. Now let's remove these 2 list items. We don't need them. Save these and see how clean our code looks using this array method. Let's see how to handle sorting selection. So first of all, here we have to create one state variable for storing sorting details. So use state and give it a name, sort, and set sort. Now as the default value, we pass here object. This object has 2 properties. First one is by, and we set it to default, and order to ASC, which means ascending. So in this first by property, we can add sort by date or sort by rating. And in order, we store ascending and descending. So in our first select tag, we pass name to by, first value to default, second value to release underscore date, and third value to vote average. Now in the second select tag, we pass name to order, first value to ASC, and second value to DESC, which is descending. Now you might think why we pass only these values. Don't worry about that, I will explain you later. For now, we just focus on handling this selection. So do you remember how we handle multiple inputs using same function? Let's apply that trick here. So we pass here one event onChange equals to handle short and value to short.by. And also for this select, we pass the same onChange event to handle short and value to short.order. Now let's quickly define this handle short function. So after this handle filter function, we define new function called handle short equals to, here we get event object, arrow function, and in this function, first we will get the name and value of current input. So const object name comma value equals to e.target. And after that we call setSort. First we get previous value, arrow function, and here we simply return object, and in that we add previous values using spread operator, and after that in square bracket name colon value. Simple as that. Now we can even make this code shorter. So if from function we want to return object, then we can remove this return and also remove these curly brackets and wrap our object in parentheses, because if we direct add curly brackets, then our code understand that curly brackets as code block. Now let's see we get our value in this short variable or not. So we simply console.log this short, save the changes and take a look. Open up console and select date from this drop down and see it is set to release date. After that we select descending and here we also get that. Now here is a one little issue. Whenever we want to see any of our component state, then we have to console.log that state variable, which is little boring. So in the next lesson, we will use debugging tool for React application. So for debugging the React application, we will use the most popular browser extension called React Developer Tools. So open a new tab in your browser and search Chrome Web Store. Open the first link and in the search box, we write React Developer Tools. If you are using another browser, you can directly search on Google React Developer Tools extension for that browser. You can see this extension downloaded by 4 million users, so it is pretty popular. Now click on Add to Chrome and give it a permission to add. Good, it is added. Now close this tab, we don't need it. Let's open Developer Tools. And in this list, here you can see option called Components. Open that. So this is our application component tree. You can see here we get our app component, which is our root component. After that we have Navbar, and after that MovieList, and in the MovieList we have filter group and bunch of MovieCard component. Now here we can see all component state by selecting them. So we select MovieList component. Here we can see hook section, and this is our short state. If we change our short value, see, we can see here that value. And here we can also see MovieList. Now if we want to see the code snippet of this component, then click on this code icon. And see, here we get our code. Now back to Components tab. Now if we have complex tree structure, then we can also search our component in this search box. So overall, React Developer Tools is a very useful tool for debugging and understanding React applications. We can view the component tree, state, props, and much more. And by using these, we can easily identify and fix issue in our application. Now let's implement sorting feature in our application. So there are many different ways to implement sorting feature. So here we are going to use one external library called Lodash. It is very popular library in JavaScript for handling objects and array. So open up terminal, and in the new terminal we write npm I Lodash. This I short for install. And if you want to use the exact same version which I am using, you can write @4.17.21 and hit enter. See, it installed. Let's minimize this terminal. Good. Now to use any library, we have to import that library from its package. So at the top, we write import _ from Lodash. Here you can also write Lodash or any other name, but this is the most common name which developers like to use. Now you might think why I write import sometimes here and sometimes below this list. So whenever I want to import anything from the packages, then I import them at the very top. And if I want to import anything from local, like components, images, basically what we create in source folder, I import that in this second list. By doing this, we can easily see what packages we are using and which components we are using. You can also separate it, or you can write all imports together. It's totally up to you. But whatever you do the same in all components. Now let's focus on sorting feature. And one thing I want to tell you about React is React runs state update in synchronous way, which means if we change our short state in this function, then React will not update that state immediately. Let me show you what I mean. So here we set short to current selected sorting methods. Let's simply move this console.log here. Save the changes and take a look. Change something in the drop down and see, here we get our old short state. If we again change this short to rate, see, we get previous state. So that's clear, React is not updating the state immediately. But why React works like this? Let me explain you. So when in React one functions run, React first let the whole function run, and if there are multiple state updates, it will stack them in a row and then run it one by one after completing this full function execution. Because if React immediately update the state, then that brings unwanted re-render for that complete component, and that is not the good thing. So that's why React runs state change commands after completing the full function execution. So we can't write our sorting logic in this handle sort function. We need to use something which automatically runs when our short state will change. Do you know about something similar which we already used? Right, it is useEffectHook. So after this useEffectHook, we add another useEffectHook, and as we know, first argument is our callback function, and second argument is dependencies array, and in this array, we pass our short state. Now inside this callback, we add one condition, if short.by not equals to default. So we don't want to short anything for default state. Inside this, we write underscore, which is our Lodash dot order by. This method is used for sorting and change order to ascending or descending both in same function. So at the first position, we have to pass our current array, which we want to sort, which is filter movies, because it can possible that we filter movies only 7 star plus and then we want to sort that. Now at the second parameter, we have to pass array, and inside this we have to pass the property by which we want to sort. So sort.by, and inside this we can also pass multiple properties. Now at the third parameter, we have to pass again array, and inside this we have to pass ASC for ascending or DESC for descending, and we store that value in sort.order. So just remember, at first parameter we pass our array which we want to sort. At the second parameter we pass array of properties by which we are going to sort. In our case, it can be release date or vote average, which are available in movies array. And last, at the third parameter, we pass ascending or descending. Simple as that. Now this expression returns a new array. So we store that in variable called sorted movies, and after that we set filter movies to sorted movies. Simple as that. Also, from our function, we remove this console.log. We don't want that. Save the changes and take a look. Close our console, refresh the page, set our sorting to date, and see, it is changing. Now change order to descending and see, it is also working. So you can see how simple it is to implement sorting using this load-as package. If you don't want to use that library, you can write sorting logic by yourself like this. It's totally fine. But in my humble opinion, this load-as library works best for us. I personally used it in many clients' projects. Now let's see how we can add dark and light mode switch in our project. So I create this switch for my client project using pure HTML and CSS. So in the resources folder, open our project 2 folder, and here we get this dark mode component folder. So simply drag this folder into our components folder. And that's it. This is how you can use other project components in your project. That's the power of creating separate components. Now let's see what is inside this component. So open dark mode component, and here we can see we have one input with type checkbox, and after that we have label, and in that I added two SVGs component, sun and moon. Let me show you how this look. So press Ctrl plus P or Command plus P and search Navbar component. Now at the top, we have to import dark mode component from dark mode folder. And we add this dark mode component before our nav links. Save the changes and take a look. Here we get some error. So let's open console and see, here we get this error. This is because Vite does not support this React component import, and by using this, we can import SVG as component. So to solve this issue, we have to use library called vite plugin svgr. npm I vite -plugin -svgr and hit enter. Good. Minimize our terminal and open vite.config.json file. Now here at the top we import svgr from vite-plugin -svgr, and in this plugins array, after this React, we call this function. Save the changes and take a look. See how beautiful this switch looks. You can use whatever switch or design for this. It's totally up to you. and you can also modify this dark mode CSS. Now here in the dark mode folder, we can see we have two SVGs. We can place them into our assets folder so our project will better organized. So select these both SVGs and move them into assets folder. And suddenly we get this error which says SVG not found in current location because we moved it. So we have to change our SVG path. So here we go, 2 folders up, assets and sun.svg. Same we do that for this path also. moon.svg. Save these and it works again. Now the reason why I give you this ready-made dark mode switch because it is pure HTML and CSS based. If I explain you each and every HTML and CSS part, then many people get bored by that because we are here for learning React. Also, I will give you the link of this tutorial in which you can see how to create this switch from scratch. Now before we start implementing dark mode functionality, first let's understand the logic of changing the theme. Basically, we are only changing colors of our website. Simple as that. We are not adding any elements or changing the size of elements. Nothing. Just we are changing the colors of our application. So the best solution for this feature is we define CSS variables for every color in our website for dark theme by default. And when user change the theme to light, we replace those all variables color value. Simple as that. So in this dark mode component, first we create one function called setDarkTheme. And in this function, I want to add one attribute to body element. So document.querySelector and pass here body. Dot set attribute and here we pass attribute name which is data-theme, comma, and we set to dark. So by using this property, we will get our theme state. Now let's duplicate this function and change this function name to setLightTheme and attribute value to light. Now let's call one of these function here. Let's say setDarkTheme and see it's working or not. Save the changes and take a look. Right click on the page and go to inspect. And in the body tag, we can see here we get data-theme to dark. So it's working. Now we want to toggle theme on change of this toggle. So we write a new function called toggleTheme and we get here event object, arrow function, and first of all we check if event.target.checked is true, then we call setDarkTheme function, else we call setLightTheme function. Now we want to pass this function in this input onChange event. So write onChange equals to toggleTheme. Save the changes and take a look. See, when we toggle this theme, it will change here. Now let's change in CSS. So open index.css file. First of all, at the top, we use colon root. And inside these, we declare all color variables for application dark theme because we want to set dark theme by default. So write double dash and write variable name, let's say body underscore background, and value to has 101010. Next, we have double dash body underscore color and value to white, and next double dash heading underscore color and value to has FFE400. If you are working on other project, then you have to add all colors in these variables which you want to change. Now let's define color variables for light theme. So we have to target here data-theme equals to light. If you want to light theme as default, then you have to add light theme colors in this root, and in this condition you have to add dark. Now inside these we define _body underscore background and value to white. Make sure you use the same variable name for light theme as well, so it will replace these dark theme variables. Next, we have _body underscore color and value to black. And at last, _heading underscore color to also black. Now we have to replace all colors in our CSS files with these variables. So here in the body, we change this background color value to variable, and in that we pass variable name _body underscore background, color to variable _body underscore color. Save this file. Now let's replace colors to variable in other CSS files. So open navbar.css file. Here you can change this heading color to variable _heading underscore color. And also we change this links color to variable _body underscore color. Save this file, and now let's check MovieList.css file. Here we have to change this movie list heading color to variable _heading underscore color. Now you might think why we are not changing this border color. Because we don't want to change its color when we change the theme. And that's all we want to change. Save the changes and take a look. See, here we get dark theme, and if we toggle, we get light theme. But by default, this slider is on light mode. So in the dark mode component, in our checkbox input, we pass one more property called default check equals to true. Save the changes and see, it is on dark mode. So it's working. But this changing theme is very sudden. Let's add little transition so it will be smooth. So here in index.css file, in our all styles, we add transition to all 0.3 second ease in and out. Save the changes and take a look. See, we get this smooth transition. Now here is the one thing. If we refresh this page, it will by default start with dark theme. But we want our application to remember if user toggle to light theme, then on refresh, it will stay on light theme. So we have to save that setting in local storage. So open dark mode component, and in this set dark theme function, we add here local storage dot set item to selected theme and value to dark. Now copy this line and paste it in set light theme function and change its value to light. Now after that, we create variable called selected theme, and we get here our stored theme. So local storage dot get item, and we pass here this name which is selected theme, and then we add condition if selected theme equals to light, then we call this set light theme function. Otherwise, it will by default start with dark theme. So we add else and simply call here set dark theme function. Save the changes and take a look. Set theme to light mode and see, now we refresh the page, we're still in light mode. But here we have to fix this toggle button. So in our input tag, we simply add in default checked attribute selected theme not equals to light. So if our selected theme is empty string or dark mode, this slider will stay on dark mode. Save the changes and see, now our toggle switch is working well. So you can modify this code according to your needs, but the logic of dark mode will remain the same. Now currently our MovieList component is static. We want to make it reusable, which means we can pass heading name, icon, and we will call different API for top related movies and upcoming movies. So let's do that. Let me show you my trick which I used to know which data we want to pass through props. So open MovieList component. First of all, we want to change this API. So back to TMDB API documentation. Open top rated movie API. And here we can see it is the same API URL which we used for popular movies. Just we have to replace popular with top_rated. And for upcoming movies, we have to just pass upcoming. So we destructure the props here. And first we add type, which can be popular, top rated or upcoming. So we change these double quotes with backticks, and at the place of this popular, we pass $, curly brackets, type. Now next, we want to change this title dynamically. So we pass here, curly brackets, and pass here title. And we also change this emoji. So we pass here emoji. And also we change this alt with backticks, $, curly brackets, emoji, icon. And that's it. Let's add these properties in props. So title and emoji. So this is very clear. We have to only pass these three properties as props. Now at the top, we can remove this image import. We don't want that. Save this file and back to our app component. In this MovieList component, we pass here type equals to popular, title to popular, and emoji to fire. And let's import this emoji. So at the top, import fire from /assets and fire.png. Now let's also import other two emojis. So import star from /assets/glowingstar.png. And at last, import party from /assets/partingface.png. Let me verify the spelling. Yes, it is right. Now let's add other two movie lists for top rated and upcoming. So duplicate this component 2 more times. And for second, change type to top_rated, title to top rated, and emoji to star. And for third, type to upcoming, title to also upcoming, and emoji to party. Save the changes and take a look. See, we have 3 different sections for movies. Now at the top, we have Navbar links which are not doing anything. So when we click on top rated link, then our page should scroll to the top rated section. And if we click on upcoming link, then our page should scroll to the upcoming section. Let's implement that. It is very simple. So in our MovieList component, we have already type props. So we can pass that type as the ID of this MovieList section. And that's the power of creating reusable components. You can see, in compared to HTML, CSS and JavaScript application, we can make our frontend fast and very dynamic. Save this file and open Navbar component, and at the first link, we pass has popular, and for second link, we pass has top underscore rated, and at last link, we pass has upcoming. Save the changes and take a look. Click on top rated link and see our page scroll at top rated section. Now, if we click on upcoming, our page scroll to upcoming section. But this is very sudden scroll. Let's make this more realistic. So open index.css file. Here we add styles for HTML tag, curly brackets, scroll behaviors to smooth. And that's it. Yes, we don't need to do any other thing. Save the changes and take a look. Click on any link and see, we get this smooth scrolling effect. And also our filter and sorting features are working well with individual components. So this application looks very simple, but it has many real-world features which will make our application modern and easy to use. So congratulations, you built a great React application which you can also add in your portfolio. This project is the section 6 and section 7 of my Ultimate React.js course. And later in this course, we build an e-commerce application with all types of advanced features like authentication, login and sign up, pagination, infinite scrolling, connect to real backend, and also some advanced hooks like use memo, use callback, use reducer, etc. And before deploying the React application, we also learned about React Query Library for increasing the speed of our React application. So there is a lot to learn. I will give you the link of my course in the pinned comment and also in the description. So quickly check this out and become an advanced React developer.